Internet. This has been Brode, and you're watching Born to be
Cosmo.
Oh, snap.
Welcome everybody to Born to be Cosmo, a Marvel Snap. I almost said Wild Hearthstone. I know I'm not used to doing this. A Marvel Snap podcast. Unfortunately, our normal host Blue Train is absent tonight, but we are filling in his stead with a couple of great special guests tonight. And sort of how Marvel Snap does periodic series drops, we do periodic episodes. So here we are. Not only am I joined by our regular co-host ZombiesGoNomNom, we also have two amazing guests tonight. So SafetyBlade and Lee Acer, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Hey,
welcome.
The Eater of Worlds.
Hell yeah.
The leader of worlds.
Oh, no, we did it. That's not the funny word.
Oh, well, it's been a little while since we've done a show, and there was just an OTA a couple of days ago. So we were recording on the 18th of August. There was an OTA last Thursday, the 15th, of Arishem and a whole bunch of other cards. And so we're going to chat through those tonight. And we also did have a couple of new cards released over the past week. Kate Bishop, the new Series Pass card, and Marvel Boy, and Wiccan, I suppose, and whatever else. I think we'll be talking some Man-Thing tonight as well. So let's jump off with these the OTA and see where the evening takes us.
Yeah.
Zombies, I'll let you lead, but I've got first up Arishem.
Yeah. Arishem, what a very silly change to a card we have here. Arishem finally getting a nerf. They decided, all right, well, we've nerfed a bunch of cards around it. It's time to address the big man himself, and it's putting three more cards in the deck. It is, I think, saying this is a slap on the wrist would be an insult to wrist slappers everywhere. This was I thought, I was of the mind that if you wanted to go light on the first pass, it was 6 cards. You put in 6 more cards. 3 just does not do very much at all. And as someone who's played some and against a lot of other Arishems, it doesn't feel any worse at all. And so far, the stats seem to have a similar indication there. It seems like it completely brushes off this change. It doesn't care. It's still doing the busted Arishem stuff. And the lists, for the most part, are generally unchanged. I know I saw KM did really well with it. A bunch of other high ladder people doing well with it. Some people are opting to run a third 6-drop now because, there are extra cards in the deck. So you want to make sure, when you are getting the cards from your original deck, you want them to be like super high impact. And that makes sense to me. But in general, the lists are very similar, if not the exact same. And they're still like kind of the best deck in the game, or one of the best decks in the game that is entirely like defining the format right now.
Oh yeah, card's still good. No denying it.
Yeah, I feel like the thought process is, we've talked about this plenty of times before, but Snap prioritizes creating like different experiences over necessarily the most balanced experience. You can argue pros and cons to that and whatnot. But I do think, there will be a point in the not too distant future when they realize, hey, yeah, this card is really cool and we're happy people like it and bought it, but it is severely limiting like what other things can succeed in terms of gameplay strategies. But I think it's going to take a little time to get there. They don't want to upset all the people who bought their most bought card ever.
Yeah.
And it sucks because like I'm of two minds about Arishem, where I absolutely detest playing against it. It's taken the throne from Loki as the thing I hate playing against the most. Also because it runs Loki, but that's another topic. But from a card acquisition standpoint, this is the best card they've ever made because it makes it so someone can come back to the game, buy Arishem, and actually play the game. Like, it'll be worse than, running a stock one with Loki and Blob and all these other Series 5 cards. But like, they've never made a better card that circumvents their very frustrating collection system. So like it's great for that. It just sucks. It comes at the cost of a very one-sided gameplay experience. Like I think that's the thing that annoys me the most about Arishem is in a game versus Arishem, most of the time, only one player gets to have the fun. Either the Arishem player draws their good cards or gets good generation and they stomp you into the ground, or they draw bad, or you have your counter and they don't have an answer, or you have Clog or Darkhawk or Cassandra and they don't have an answer and they lose. And both those types of games are just very one-sided fun where there isn't a lot of like tension between what's going on. And just the nature of Arishem having so many cards in the deck, it's even more frustrating when they are constantly beating down on you by drawing the perfect answer at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? When I play Arishem, I always lose my Shang, but my opponent always has theirs. It's not fair.
On that point, even when they draw random cards and beat you with random cards, it's one-sided fun. Like, cause you're not playing against anything. You're playing against 24 cards. Like, you're not actually like I've sent some screenshots just before the stream of the 2 games I played.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Both them games, I think they drew 1 card, which is actually in their deck. It doesn't actually matter. The most important thing about that card, and I'll say it over and over and over and over and over again, I said it from the start, is +1 energy is much too much. It's just too big of an advantage to be giving for what they actually make you do with the card.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, the downside isn't enough.
And what Blue Train would say if he was here was like, here's the thing with Arishem is because you're using all these random cards, your opponent just can't play around it. Like there's no way to play around random crap that you get. It's and like people just rage.
Play around all 250 cards in the game. It's easy. Just use your big leader-sized brain, and you got it.
The reality is, like, what it does to the metagame is your option is to build something which can go stupidly over the top if you really want to consistently beat it. Cassandra Nova helps a lot, obviously, but you want to be able to like go over the top of 2 lanes quite easily. So it's actually limiting the game.
Severely.
How much does Cassandra hurt the deck?
Cassandra doesn't hurt that much.
Not that much, right?
Yeah, because they have Shang and Shadow King, and it's like,
you have to play Cassandra in a deck which can also go bigger. So obviously, like the Dagger deck does really well. All-in junk decks can still do quite well because they're locking lanes, but they still need to draw an answer at some point. Like the combo decks are doing better. Mr. Negative is doing well. Silver Surfer's doing well because they do their own thing. They don't care what Arishem's doing.
Yeah.
So it's making the game more into a draw simulator a little bit.
Old fishing, like the Magic the Gathering term, where it's like, I'm just slamming my stuff and I'm kind of ignoring essentially treating your opponent as if they are a goldfish who is doing nothing.
So that's the thing. What you need to do if you want to beat Arishem consistently is just go do your own thing, and something which doesn't care whether it has the energy. If it draws its thing, it just beats you, because that's how you beat them. You never catch them on tempo. If you want a mid-range deck right now, it's Arishem. The people seem to miss is that's the mid-range deck. This game here, I got double block.
Yeah, I mean, and how can you play around that, right? I mean, it's just.
Now I was trying to. There was a decision made between Sage and Odin. I would have won if not for US Agent, just to be clear. As well.
Generated by Arishem, by the way.
Exactly. So I actually made the right play. If you see the Odin in my hand, it wouldn't have beaten 27. So just want to make sure everyone knows I made the right play.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on. I didn't mean to put you on blast there, but the timing seemed right. So
no, but it's you can see there, like he generated blob and his own blob.
Yeah.
And Jet from his own deck. Everything else there is generated.
Yep, the White Tiger, the Ravonna, the
the
Shang-Chi, even. It's just
like because I checked if the 80s Shang-Chi in one of the globs. That's why I was so confident. I was trying.
Because you can see what they ate, and so if it's not there anymore, that's
he ate his own Shang-Chi and his own Alive, and he still drew all that.
It's crazy.
I think my point with Arishem stays the same as it always has been. Is I think if they took almost all the cards out and just gave you a completely random deck, it would still be a good deck, because the real reason it does well is
It would probably still be very playable, which is incredibly like messed up to think about. Like, and
it's Marvel Snap is a game. It's not another card game. This is a 6-turn game with a very limited set of cards which do very similar things. Like if you're playing with more energy and more consistently, you're just going to draw bigger things and play bigger things.
Yeah, it's shocking. Like having double the energy than your opponent does makes you win double the times. I don't know
exactly
how the math wasn't done there.
Oh man,
it's what it kind of reminds me of though. Like it makes me think of how, and this came up back in the Mercenaries days. Like this feels like it's one of those things games with smaller numbers struggle with. Like what if you could give Arishem 0.5 energy? Like, what if you could do increments, like to have like something between 1 and nothing? And they're never going to do that because it's like it makes the math more complicated. It's not as nice to look at. It's not like a really realistic solution for them. But in a world where they aren't so married to these like small numbers, like it feels like you could do a little bit of like working with it there. And I remember that was something back in the Mercenaries days I kind of wished for as well, where they also operated on a lot of cards had like their abilities at a number between like 1 and 10, and sometimes the difference between like 3 and 4 was a world of difference, and you can't really go halfway.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, if you double over numbers, by that theory, you can double over numbers, and you've got
that's the way you could get around it. But then you get into the issue of we want the numbers to be smaller so people can like more easily do the math and all that kind of stuff.
I just find like it's something I struggle with. I feel like I'm disconnected from what people might call fun of Arishem because I don't see it. I just see you've got the clear advantage of extra energy and you're going to play more cards than me. So therefore you're more likely to win. That's it. It's really that simple.
It's pushing a boulder up the hill in the Arishem meta to me. It's like, can you do it? Can you win with other things? Yes, you can. But I think you are you're playing on an uneven playing field. You are playing down the hill and you're pushing your way up.
It's just what I mean more than anything is like you can play against it. I've not been playing it. I've been playing anything but it, and you can see that I definitely wasn't playing it there. But I think people don't really see the impact it's having on what you can play outside of it, and how then decks when you play my deck into someone else who's playing a dagger junk deck. Basically, neither of us are caring about what we're doing either. Like, suddenly, we're both trying to just do combos.
Yeah, you're not interacting with your opponent at all.
So we've all built decks to try and beat the Arishem, play against the Arishem player, and then when you play against each other, it ends up being like the same thing. Just ships passing in the night because that's the game. Because you can't not run that because you'll run into the Arishem player and you'll get stomped.
Yeah,
it's definitely feels like Snap has trended more in that direction where it's. For a while, Snap was more like reactive stuff kind of defined the game for a while. And I mean, people are still running Shang and whatnot, but you're not seeing these decks that are trying to be purely reactive because you just can't. You cannot be a purely reactive deck anymore because your deck just doesn't put out enough points and you're not always going to draw the silver bullet tech card. And even when you do, sometimes Arishem will just Goliath you. It's like, it feels like that kind of strategy has been severely weakened over time. And we can see that in a lot of the decks that are successful. And the real like negative thing about it, I think, is like there are a bunch of other decks that compete. There are a bunch of other good decks you can play and win with. But the distance between the decks that are good and the decks that are maybe mediocre or mid is so far, like the distance there is incredibly far. And I think Arishem is a huge part of what is causing that, because those like your tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 decks, they're so much worse than the things that you have up in like tier 1. Whereas before, like that wasn't always the case. It used to be you could compete with these like tier 2, tier 3 decks, and now it feels like the gap is much wider there.
Yeah. It's good. So summarize that perfectly. I think the lower tiers are what hurt more. Yeah. I don't think, to be clear, I don't even think Arishem's the best deck you can play right now. I don't think it's actually the best deck. I just think it has a much bigger impact, and people want to ignore this advantage it has, which will mean it never goes away if they keep hitting it like this. I think they could add another 10 cards and it might not go away.
Yeah, I think we're going to see kind of what we saw with Thanos, where they go light at first and then they do something that they think is heavier, but it's not heavy enough. And then they hit them with the, all right, kill shot. We'll deal with this later when we figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the course of action we're going to see with Arishem. They want to be gentle with it at first. They recognize a lot of people like the card. Makes sense. And I think it's like, it's such an unfortunate thing that like the gameplay experience can be so like not great when like it's so good at circumventing like the collection issues with the game, because it's like someone wished like, all right, I want a card that fixes all the collection issues in Marvel Snap, or like makes them a lot better, and the monkey's paw curled, and this is what we ended up with. And it's like, we did get that, but it came at a bit of a high cost.
No, there's definitely a cost.
What about you, Lee? So like our experiences are often like, the high infinite ladder. What's been your experience like with or against Arishem still climbing up in like the 80s
I see
or the 90s?
Arishem a little bit. I don't see it as much as I used to be honest. Right now, the thing that I see the most in my bracket is it's a lot of Patriot and Marvel Boy.
Interesting. So, like Zoo stuff and Patriot.
A lot of Zoo stuff, a lot of Patriot stuff. There's the odd discard list, which doesn't do very well. But other than that, I think I've seen like maybe a handful of Arishem players, and every deck that I've seen so far has run Darkhawk and what's her name, Cassandra Nova.
Yep.
So they're still kind of like on the older version.
Yeah, much the older list. Yeah.
That's interesting.
They're running it. There's a handful of people still doing it, but mostly what I've seen, and I expected as much with Marvel Boy coming out, and Kate Bishop, and I see a little bit of bounce as well. So
yeah, it's super interesting because that's like pretty different.
I had a little bit of the same experience. I hit Infinite last weekend. I played Zoo up until like the mid 90s, and then I was just seeing a ton of either counters or a lot of people playing like clog type of stuff, or like Patriot decks as well. And I was like, forget this. I got tired of losing. And so I clawed my way back with Arishem from like 95 to Infinite. And it's kind of the same type of deal. Patriot doing surprisingly well.
Yeah, actually, a buddy of mine just hit Infinite with a Patriot list.
I actually didn't see that much. I agree with Lee. Like everyone that I saw was playing Cassandra Nova like in every single deck, and so I was like, forget it. I'm not playing Arishem. Like it's and it was funny when you play something different and it just doesn't eat anything or eats very little. But even when I was playing Arishem, and again, this is pre-nerf, but like they play Cassandra Nova, and it was like, well, I've got Shang-Chi, plus I've got this other Shang-Chi, so like whatever.
Exactly.
It was Blue's list, and we added to combat like the Thena, Zoo, whatever piles. Like we threw Sandman in there, and it worked like fantastic. It was so good.
It's pretty solid.
I didn't actually see very much Arishem, actually. I didn't see very much at all. A little bit.
I think it calmed down a little bit. I think there are a few things going on there. One, I think the people who spam Arishem probably all got to Infinite. So it's not all, but like a lot of them probably got to Infinite really quick. So like you're seeing less of them comparatively in the pool you're in, since it segments out post-Infinite and pre-Infinite. Also, like the OTA day for like a good like 3 or 4 hours, at least where I'm at, people weren't playing it, right? They took a little break from it. It's the classic nerfed card syndrome, where people just don't want to touch a card that has been perceived as getting worse in some way. And then everyone has their like wake up moment of like, oh wait, this card's actually still incredibly good. The reason it was nerfed was because it was really good, and it's still really good. And I think that happened with both Arishem and Cassandra Nova, where it's like, oh, they made these really good cards worse. Oh no, I don't want to play them anymore. And then you go to play them and you just crush people still. And it's like, oh yeah, wait, they're still really good.
That card's still good.
It's it's the extra mana is worth like almost any. Like give me several more random cards in the deck, and like the extra energy per turn is just so strong that it doesn't even really matter almost.
And from what like I keep seeing on Twitter, Arishem players love their random cards, so they should be happy about getting extra cards in the deck. It creates a more varied experience, which is surely what Arishem players enjoy, and not just like winning because they have a million more mana. Surely that's it.
I love that argument, by the way. I get into that one almost weekly. Someone tries to do that one to me. I rant about this on stream much more unfiltered than this, but basically, I don't think this card's going anywhere.
No,
for some time.
I don't think they want it to go anywhere, and like when they do want it to go somewhere, I think it's going to be pretty clear. Like I'll be very surprised if it doesn't follow the general Thanos pattern. Like maybe I don't think they're going to nail it as hard as Thanos, where like when they hit Thanos with that final batch of nerfs,
they hit it.
It was brutal,
hard,
and he still hasn't recovered, even after getting the Mind Stone to 1, which we can talk about. Like it's brutal.
Well, it's better now than it was for sure. But
yeah, but it's like going from like a D+ to a C-. It's like, yeah, you improved. You're not really hitting the goal, but you're a little bit better.
That's great. That's great.
But what about that's enough Arishem for now. What about the other changes?
So we can agree though, Arishem like laughs at this silly nerf, right? We just
the insert clip of the Arishem start of the game laugh. Like that's how he reacted to the news of this patch.
All right. Next up is Cassandra Nova. So it went from a 3-1 to a 3-0.
Negative buff. Better, Mr. Negative.
Oh gosh.
Jane draws it now. Kind of sick.
Yeah, I mentioned that. I need to think about Mr. Negative a bit more, actually. But I think this is a real nerf. It actually is a nerf.
Yeah.
It's like I've been finding myself putting the card periodically when I'm not playing Arishem, then suddenly putting it right back in because it's just like it still completely destroys Arishem.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
unless
it's
you
just
play
a good
on
free drop still, like it's
a
little bit worse, but it's still really good because if you're playing it on 3, you get a 3/6, and then anything
you still get the cards strong.
You get debuffed is like extra, right? So even if you get 1 or 2 debuffs, it's a 3/7 or a 3/8. That's premium.
The worst part for Cassandra is just how average she is. If you play her just randomly in a deck and you draw her late now, is much worse.
Yeah, she does feel bad.
Like, which happens a lot. It does happen a lot in my ones because I don't play her in the synergy ones. But as far as the decks with good synergy with her and Surfer and stuff, like she's still a great free drop, and you should not drop her from any deck she was in.
She likes Ajax, right?
Yeah, she's good with Ajax. Yeah. Like, although really, I think it's just because the Ajax decks appreciate having a way to make Arishem sad. But yeah, like this and one of the other cards that got buffed, like, are both like help out with buffing up Ajax if you don't find your hazmat, which can be kind of nice.
Cassie's main synergies are like Darkhawk, Sandman, because she comes down early and you're ahead with her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the main ones. Ajax does it mainly for the synergy for
I could see okay, in chat Sam saying with Darkhawk, because you're pumping in a bunch of rocks and then all the rocks are now negative.
Oh, she's very good
still very good in that deck. Still very good with Sandman. Very good on turn 3 still, but she gets worse as the game goes on still, and every time they knock power off this one, I don't think they'll touch this card again.
Oh, I doubt it.
I think they're.
She's still 33% of decks and top 10% of Infinite right now.
Yeah. Surely there
is more. There is more of her in decks than Arishem, but there's twice as many of her. You're twice as likely to see Cassandra Nova than Arishem.
It makes sense, right?
There's that in front of me right now.
Because, like, if you want to beat Arishem, you increase your odds dramatically by putting this in your deck. It's not a guaranteed win, but it sure makes it a lot easier when you have a 3/20. And it's also has a bonus against the new Loki, even outside of Arishem, right? Because the new Loki is making their deck bigger than it would normally be on turn 3. Mm-hmm. So if they play down new Loki, Cassandra gets pretty big.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, because Loki's in 30-something% of decks as well right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found that she's really good in them situations. Whereas I've actually held her and been like, I might wait and see if they play Loki rather than play her now, so that I can get the free 10 later.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I think it's a good change. I actually have no problem with that change at all.
Cool.
Yeah,
Other than they
I
keep
think
releasing
most
cards
people are fine
and
with that.
changing them straight away.
Any thoughts, Lee? Are you seeing this a lot?
Like I said, just in a handful of those Arishem decks, really. But I haven't seen this card since the diner, essentially. I rarely see people
in the
playing it.
diner. I was seeing it a ton. I think everyone just wanted to
Yeah.
play with the new toy, right? But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, we can move on then. The next one I have up is the Infinity Stone. So the Mind Stone is back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is Thanos still a thing? I mean, I saw it a little bit. It seems like with the Lockjaw revert, like Thanos is okay.
Yeah, Thanos,
I mean,
Safety's favorite deck is back.
I played like 1 or 2 games. I just still don't like Lockjaw. It's the Lockjaw deck. Like, it hurts me. It's a no for me. Like, I don't like it. Still don't like it. And I definitely don't like it having a turn 1 Mind Stone. I remember when the change first happened, I went in Conquest and every game was against Thanos and I was just like losing my shit even though it wasn't that. Like, I'm sick of this. This is drawing cards. And I love
You were
drawing.
worried it was going to come back, and I was feeding into that a bit because I was winning a bit with it, and I was like, oh, I'm winning with this deck. Is it back? And you know what the secret to winning with Thanos Lockjaw is, aside from like drawing your stones early? It's not running into people playing Cassandra, Nova, and Arishem. And it turns out when over half the games or half the decks in the game play those 2 cards, Thanos has a really bad time. Now, this might be shocking, but yeah, Thanos really doesn't appreciate either of them. And Arishem is just worse than Cassandra for Thanos. You'd think, oh no, Cassandra, he has a big deck. She gets real big. Not nearly as much of it is a problem. Like, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt nearly as much as Arishem does. Arshem's the new Thanos. Out with the old, in with the new. The old big bad is bad, and the new one is good. And if you want to play Thanos, just like go play Arishem instead, because Arishem is kind of what old Thanos was. It's just the best ramp deck out there. I think Thanos, like, if you like the Thanos Lockjaw stuff, it's fun. It's better than it used to be. Like, the Mind Stone buff, I do think helps it, but it's not like helping it enough to where Thanos is going to reasonably compete with most of the tier 1 decks right now. It's just you almost have to play it like Mr. Negative, where you have to be very vigilant about retreating on bad hands. And the second you think, okay, I got the nuts this hand, you just have to go all in. Because if you're not maximizing those cube gains, you're going to have a not so great time with Thanos in the games where you just draw too many of your big guys or don't get your stones, and you just can't really play your cards. So, like, I think there's hope for the archetype, and this helps, but Thanos needs a lot more help.
Or revert the Time Stone or something.
I don't think they're ever going to revert the Time Stone. I don't think I want them to.
I think I think that, like, I mean, I usually don't dip into chat too much, but there's some really good comments tonight. So Peter Kefalo says, if I'm going to be adding more cards to my deck, I'll take the +1 energy instead of whatever benefit Thanos even has these days. It's like, true. It's true. It is like, right? If you're going to throw in a bunch of random stuff, like, take the extra energy instead.
Also, Clog, like, it's important to remember the context of the game has changed pretty significantly from when Thanos was like top tier. There was like Clog decks really weren't a great thing outside of like, Annie Junk. And even that wasn't like the most dedicated Clog deck of the bunch. But now White Widow is in like a million decks.
Oh, yeah.
There are a bunch of decks that are dedicated to clogging. Thanos cannot handle those decks well at all because you need to play your stones in order to do things. And even if you don't run into Clog, one thing I found in testing Thanos for like 2 or 3 hours after the patch, there are so many terrible locations for Thanos.
Yeah.
There are just so many bad ones where they restrict your ability to play cards, or they put some stuff in the lane that you don't want there because you need the space. Like, so many bad locations for Thanos. And it feels like there weren't nearly as many good ones. So when you combine that with the fact that a lot of the best decks are just very favored into it, it seems like Thanos' time is still not now. One thing I would really like them to do, so like they made that whole reversion, like rework with Thanos to where it's all about Thanos being guy, right? Like, he starts in your hand, he's Quicksilver Thanos, and you're trying to buff him up and stuff. But I think there's room to make that actually feel better, because I don't think it feels super good right now. It doesn't feel like you're actually like making Thanos the main guy as much as like I imagine they would want you to feel that.
Hmm.
And I think there are like two main things they could do to probably fix that. Yeah, the Thanos Quicksilver.
Yeah. It was still sitting on my desktop, so
I love this. I love this so much. It's perfect, and it's extra relevant now that like Quicksilver is being played by people because of Wiccan. But the two things that I think would be really sick for Thanos: one, change the Power Stone, make it so right now Thanos getting the 20 power is such a rare thing to happen, and even when it doesn't always win you the game. I think the power Thanos gains should be incremental. So make the Power Stone ongoing for each time you play, or for each stone you have in play, other than this one, each other stone, Thanos gets +2. So you still have the same total.
A lore argument.
And yeah, it legitimately is a lore argument, because it's like Thanos is collecting the stones and it's making him stronger piece by piece. And I think it would both be a flavor win and help make the card better. Because like even with the time stone, like 5/10s are not really doing a whole ton a lot of the time, other than maybe reducing your scar. So like if you could actually have Thanos have more power as a payoff for playing your stones, that would be super duper cool. Like I think that's just like a win all around if they want to give him a bit more power. And then the other change, maybe it's too much, I don't know, probably a little controversial. I think he should start with a random stone in hand to offset Thanos just being a brick. Some of the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, and people keep saying
so
like,
often with it.
Spider-Ham eats it, and it's just not as good as it once was, for sure.
It's not even close. It's not even remotely close to how good it once was. And like they don't need to bring it back to where it's like defining the whole game or anything, but like it's Marvel Snap. Thanos does the snap thing. He's probably one of the most iconic characters in the game.
Oh, yeah, it's not playable right now. I don't think it's not good. When do you ever actually play Thanos, right? Very rarely.
Like, it's just not good right now.
All right. This is Safety's deck on screen right now.
Yeah, wait. What are the stats?
I found this deck, so I don't want to take credit for it. I'll work on something eventually. But this is the best win rate version of Thanos right now. If anyone's wondering, because there's a lot of chatter in the chat about the Thanos decks and how they feel great. There's one of them decks that feels better than it is always.
I agree with that. Yeah.
For the audio. For the audio listeners, I'll just run through the deck list super quick. Psylocke, Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, Jeff, Hope Summers, Nocturne, Shang-Chi, Wiccan, Cole Obsidian, Mockingbird, Red Hulk, Thanos, and Scar.
If anyone knows who actually made the deck, please, like, there wasn't.
I saw it circulating on Twitter, but I don't know who made it. But it's Wiccan is
only. Here's a fun fact: this is the only Thanos deck I can find with above 50% win rate.
Really? Wow.
Currently. So it's one of them decks that feels a lot better than it actually is always. And it used to feel better than it did when it was really strong, but it was just that strong. It is Safety's Kate variant Ari. That's correct. This is a variant of Kate Bishop that I drew for the game. Safety lore moment for you. So yeah, the card always feels better than it is. The Kara feels better than it is. Marvel Boy feels better than it is. Like all these things just feel better than the eyes. Just
they aren't even running Kara in this deck. That's insane.
That one's not. I'm just reminding. I've seen some of the comments going about it. It's one of them decks that it always just feels better than it actually is going.
You remember the good times more than the bad in Thanos. It feels like
it's so much, and it's just the payoff for doing what you're doing just isn't high enough. If you look at the deck here. Your payoff is you get to play a few 10 power cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw a list going around that had Marvel Boy in it. It seemed like it worked okay.
Yeah, some people have tried Zoo, but like Thanos Zoo is just worse regular Zoo. Like
the problem is like way back before Lockjaw was found. Thanos was always just the worst version of every other deck. It was the worst version of Destroy. It was the worst version of Zoo. It wasn't until it had its own identity with Lockjaw and playing big things that it was really any good at all.
Yep, that's super true. I played Thanos day one, and that was genuinely the experience for a couple months until people figured out the Lockjaw deck. It was just worse versions of other stuff because your deck was inconsistent with the stones, and it didn't make up for that inconsistency with like reasonable power. I'm
Yeah.
convinced, like, if you want to like play Thanos, I still think you should play the Lockjaw one, but like
Yeah, I think so too.
it's just not that great. This is the list I put together. I really like this list. Also, it has some of my like absolute favorite variants. And I think it looks really cool. But and it was winning, but you get a few bad streaks, and when things go bad for Thanos, they go so incredibly bad. And when
Yes.
things go good for it, like you really have to have the stars align for the good things to happen. And when they do, sometimes you still just get outpowered by Arishem, and it feels really bad.
So, in short, for me, Thanos is like if you can put it, you can make a worse version of any deck you want with Thanos and play it. That's and Mindstone makes that a little bit more possible now. I'm pretty sure that's a 10% jump in win rate.
Yeah, it's big because like getting it on
Mindstone's a huge
one,
range. Yeah,
being able to curve out 2 stones on 2, like that is a very significant change for Thanos. Like it helps, but
yeah, it's a big buff. It's a huge buff. It's not. I don't want to undersell that, but trying to like, nothing currently seems compelling with it at all. As its own defining Thanos is making this deck stronger situation. But I think if you look at this, it's just the worst version of Arishem if you're looking at it really. Not your one. The one I haven't got. My one. I've got. Your one's different. Your one's a lockjaw deck, which I dislike. But the first deck was was just the worst version of playing Arishem.
Yeah, it was right. You're just trying to cheat out some big dudes.
You'll be able to play it more now, but it won't be.
Things. Like, yeah, it really is just kind of a worse Arishem, and Thanos's identity crisis continues. Apparently, he's in a weird spot, and I think it's a great example of like the whole thing we talked about with Arishem, where it's like decks that are in that like tier 3 section, they're just pushed down further than I think they would be otherwise. Like, you wouldn't rise to tier 1 if Arishem didn't exist, but maybe it'd be able to compete a little bit better with like the tier 1 and tier 2 decks. And
I think if it wasn't it gets dumped down by anything else mid-range, like Arishem is the mid-range and it beats this down too consistently, this would be a much better deck in a different meta.
Yeah.
It's just
like because the card power is there. Like when you get the Lockjaw stuff rolling or the ramp out some big guys rolling, it does things. It puts power down. It does some like impactful things. Like it does feel like there's something to it. It's just like it's not consistently doing those things enough. And when you don't do those things, it's like playing a Mr. Negative deck that didn't draw a Mr. Negative deck. Except even those decks are sometimes a bit better without drawing their Mr. Negative than Thanos is. Like it's really rough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm gonna bring up the next card because
yeah, that's enough on Thanos.
Keep us moving along. Thena. So Thena went from a 2-1 down to a 2-0. How impactful you think this is?
This
they killed my god. So
they killed her. Oh my god, I saw so many comments where a lot of people were upset about this change. And like, so it's a very common, almost like a meme, where it's like when people talk about like being in Shang-Chi range. And I think the developers have said before, like, at least on their end, generally speaking, like higher power, even if it gets into Shang-Chi range, is usually better than lower power that dodges. And I think in general, that's a true statement. I think this is less true with Thena, because the thing with Thena is if you were buffing her up early, you would often skip one of those turns to make sure she didn't become a 210 at the end of turn 5 going into turn 6, and then could die to Shang, because you can just buff her up again at the end of the turn, and then she can't get shanged if you have her at 2-8 or 2-7 or whatever it was. I think 2-7. But now you can just pump her up that extra value to 2-9 and you're fine. You're golden. You don't have to worry about it anymore. So I think this is actually like a rare instance of it is actually kind of better for the card more often than it's not. Like maybe sometimes you'll lose because she was 0 instead of 1 versus Shadow King, but you still get that pump at the end of the turn. And I do think this helps with like dealing with her, like maybe with like a Deathstrike or something like that, maybe. But like in general, this card very much didn't feel much of an impact from this nerf, and in some specific situations, it actually benefits from it.
Yep, I think you summarized that perfectly.
Yeah, it's like it's just really funny. Like so many of the changes we got in this, it felt like they were like, well, we kind of like where the meta's at. But we're just gonna ding a bunch of like the top performing cards by 1 power and see what happens. And I don't think they were realistically expecting it to have a super crazy shake up on the metagame. And so far, that's what's happened. It hasn't shaken up the metagame very much at all outside of like one particular card.
Yep.
Still play Thena. She's good.
Yep.
If you played her before, you can still play her. That's it for Thena. I don't think we have much else to say about her, right?
No. All right, next up is Sandman. So Sandman that was buffed up to 5/7 is now going down to a 5/6. So they were like, yeah, we wanted Sandman to see more play, and then you guys all started playing it. Now it's seeing too much play. So,
and it's still really good at what it does, right? Like it's still it's like another ding.
I think I'll negative comment maybe about how they balance things this one. They've changed Sandman so many times.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't understand why they keep doing it.
Because it feels bad.
They're very selective about what they view as a feel bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, but Arishem having extra energy for me feels a lot worse than Sandman.
Yeah, Arishem's ability feels significantly worse than getting Sandman.
It's like they keep trying to tell you what counter to play, and then when people play that counter too much, like, oh no, not that much, guys. Jeez, okay.
Yeah,
it was a 5/6 a couple of weeks. Like I could just leave it. It was always going to go in and out of popularity. This sort of card is what I'm trying to get to. It's not.
It's meta specific. You're never just gonna like jam it randomly.
You don't need to be buffing and changing this sort of card all the time. Like you get the spot like where it was at when it was a 5/6 or whatever it was, or 5/5, and you just leave it there and you go. Sometimes it's going to be good. Sometimes it's going to be bad. Like, I don't understand why they keep fiddling with cards like this. So
I think it's like the nerf syndrome thing where it's like they know it'll still be good and will still do its job, but it will lower the play rate because people don't like playing nerfed cards. And I think that's just what what happens. Like I think that's kind of the goal is when they're trying to drive down the play rate, and nerfed cards do just have the play rate driven down. Even when like in a deck like this, Patriot, Sandman is still just as good as it's ever been, really. Like the Patriot deck really doesn't feel the -1 point of power to where it's like, oh, I should go play a different deck. It's like, no, just if Patriot's working for you, just keep playing the Sandman Patriot. It's good.
All right. This deck, Lee, where did you get this? This is from...
That was from Eddie. So Eddie sent that to me. He hit Infinite the other day with that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like playing Sandman on 5 into Doom or Ultron or some board fill on 6. It feels great. And
you get Cassandra Absorbing Man for the Arishem matchup. Brood gives you another thing to target with the Absorbing Man. Like, it's just clean. Like I'm gonna do the deck credit thing and take a little credit for popularizing the Sandman stuff a bit. I mean, I think people just found it on Untapped, but I was playing that like a few days before it really blew up when everyone was like trying to find like counters to all the spam bunch of cards, Thena, kitty stuff. And like the deck is really good.
You got me onto it, and you got me like 4 avatars last month.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just a really, and it still is a really good deck. I have liked the Blink version a bit because of being able to swap the Sandman into your Doom or Ultron if you don't find it, and it just makes the deck remarkably consistent.
Interestingly, the Blink versions like disappeared from all stats websites for some reason. Like no one playing and I'm still playing the Blink version. Blink version, mine's a bit different.
So what do you pull for Blink?
I think I put it in the chat actually for you. This one.
Let's see.
My one's a little bit different than what everyone else plays.
I think it was the Echo. I didn't have Echo.
Starting to see other people doing the Marvel Boy, which that's something I've been doing for quite some time now.
I see.
Some Marvel Boy. But Sandman still does the same thing it did before. It's like a low feb if you want to do the Hearthstone analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is.
Like you play, you get ahead, you low feb them, and then you win turn 6. Like it'll do that at 5/6, it'll do that at 5/5, and sometimes it's going to be really crap because you're playing against different decks, and sometimes it's going to be really good. That's like it feels very artificial, but they push cards like Sandman around all the time, and I'm not sure what their goal is in doing that.
I think it's to artificially change the meta, right? Like by influencing play rate.
Issue with this one. Like it's not that it's unfair or didn't need it. honestly think they should have looked at the card which they actually buffed, which was causing the problem, which is Ultron, but they won't do that.
Leave Ultron alone. He's a good machine. He had to wait like a year to be relevant again. So
Ultron's just like a really better Doctor Doom now. Like every situation.
Yeah, he's so good.
There's very few situations where Ultron is not better than Doctor Doom now for a deck. So it's actually crazy. But yeah, the Sandman still does the same thing, and yeah, cool card.
Yeah, I've seen other people play this too. I like this version with Marvel Boy.
I've seen other people are playing, instead of Patriot, they run Claw. I don't think they play Blink. They run Claw and Captain Marvel. And there's someone I've played a lot of the last couple of last 2 days. He's playing Red Hulk as well. So there's a lot of different versions. But
some people are playing Ultron in Loki decks as one of the top end threats now. Like it's just it's a good enough 6-drop. It kind of did just take the role of Doom in a lot of decks.
I mean, with 8 power and then it fills up the bots with the bots having 2. Yeah. It's fantastic. And then you can it's good on like bad locations.
Yeah. No, it's just a good card.
Ultron is very strong now, I think. Yeah.
Please never change. Yeah. Ultron's the reason these decks do well, not Sandman. Just trying to
I love Ultron too. He's just fun.
For our listeners, if anyone is watching this on YouTube, God bless you. If you're watching or listening to the audio version of the podcast, we got decks, like we're talking about the cards, and we've got deck lists that are kind of flashing back and forth. So sorry, you just have to go watch it on YouTube.
I'll run
it's like this. I can run
through my list.
I mean, you can if you want to, but
we can leave it.
I mean, whatever.
Come to the YouTube.
Yeah.
There's dozens of us on YouTube.
This is a graphically intense podcast, so check it out that way. All right. What do we got up next? Lady Deathstrike. Yes.
Let's go.
Zombies
brought her back.
Zombies' favorite card. Just kidding, but not
no.
Really.
Lady Deathstrike is one of my favorite cards. Like all right, this is another one where I'm gonna do a little self patting on the back. I was doing the Deathstrike stuff before she was good. I know she wasn't good then, but coming up with the core of the tempo destroy Deathstrike, that's one of my favorite decks I have ever made. And it was back when she was a 5/4 and was really bad.
Yeah.
And so when they first buffed her to a 5/7, I already had the deck in the tank. I already built it. It's just she went from bad to good. So I played a bunch of that and it was really good. And then eventually they tweaked her down from 7 to 6, and
I think I'm sad. I think I'm running her in your current Arishem build because
I was playing her in Arishem.
She's just premium stats now at 5/7.
Playing Deathstrike on 4 is a very messed up thing to do.
Yeah.
I learned about that from the deck I'm talking about, the Tempo Destroy deck. It plays X23. So sometimes you would ramp her out on 4 and you just wreck some decks. Bounce is a really good example. If you get Prio against Bounce, which isn't hard to do, they have this one lane, they're going to bounce all their stuff, and you just slam a Deathstrike into it on 4 before their Beast or their Falcon goes off. And then you watch them speed run pressing the retreat button. It's I love Deathstrike as a card. I'm happy they are putting her back to 7 because truthfully, I don't think she really, this is what Safety was saying, I don't think she really needed the nerf down when they go to a 5/7. It's not like she was warping the game or anything, but it's weird. They buff these cards and they're whoa, all of a sudden the play rate and win rate shot up. It's almost like people have been wanting to play this card or something. We can't have that. We need to reduce that. And it's I get it if it's warping the game around it or something, but Deathstrike definitely wasn't doing that.
No, it just wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough.
So I'm happy they brought her back to 5/7 and
just in time for a bundle.
Yeah, just in time for the bundle. It's when they buffed She-Hulk back up right before the She-Hulk bundle from 9 to 10 power.
Always.
But yeah, it's cool. It doesn't really change about how you play this card or anything. I think that's true for most of the changes in this patch. They didn't change how you play these cards. I think they just are revitalizing interest in them. Mm-hmm. The sad thing about this one though is that I want to go play a Lady Deathstrike focused deck, and I have, and it's been all right. It's been fine, but you just immediately think, I can play this on turn 4 anytime in Arishem, and it's that's just better.
Yeah.
And that's an Arishem problem, not a Lady Deathstrike problem.
Yep.
as should be obvious, but apparently isn't to some people.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen this at all? Have you actually run into people playing this card? after the
Only
patch?
a tiny bit.
Same.
One or two, mainly in Arishem.
Yeah, sounds about right. I played in Annihilus and I had some fun with that, but outside of there in Arishem, I really haven't seen a whole lot of it from other people.
Yeah, I saw it in hard run. Someone was hard running it in Arishem, like you mentioned, along with Manfink.
A mean 1-2 punch.
That's the zombie special. That's in the deck though, for sure. At least the version that I saw here in Discord a few days ago, and I've got it.
I love that deck.
I've got it sleeved up. It's fantastic. It's
very fun, and I had I think one of my favorite moments of all time. It was unfortunate. I had to bully a lower collection level player. I think they were only like 1 or 2K, but they were playing Patriot Ultron, and it was Onslaught Citadel. So like my deck really likes that. Their deck really likes that. So we both snap, and they're stacking the lane. They got their Patriot, their Blue Marvel. You know, they're doing all their big stuff. And I have a U.S. agent and a Man Thing chilling there. And so all the cards are like super small because I don't run Luke Cage. So like they're hitting each other and they're getting really small. And then they slam the Ultron and they get all their drones. And then I played Lady Deathstrike and it killed literally everything in the lane. It killed every single thing, including the 2-power Ultron. It was so funny.
It's beautiful.
That's mean.
It was very mean, but sometimes you just gotta teach people a lesson to respect Lady D. They did not see it coming.
All right, up on the screen, I've got the Arishem list from a couple days ago with Copycat, Man Thing, Deathstrike.
Yeah, I like this version quite a bit. It's probably like objectively correct to run Blob over Lady Deathstrike or Legion. Just like take your pick. Like Blob is probably a better card. But this is the one I ran as soon as like we got the OTA, and I didn't play a ton of it because I'm not super big on playing Arishem. It's not my jam. Like I like building and tweaking my own decks, and I don't feel like there's a whole lot of room for that with Arishem. Arishem kind of builds itself a lot of the time, and you don't really feel the impact of your individual card changes a ton.
It is nice to have something
just wins.
that tweaks locations, and so whether it's Legion or a Nocturne or something else.
Yeah, just something to get rid of those locations that you don't really appreciate. Legion's especially good because like there are so many locations you can just scam games with Legion.
Oh god, like New York or one of the like the Squirrel one. Central Park, is it? Yeah.
Central Park, Bar with No Name, like all those.
Oh, they're ridiculous. Yeah.
So he's good for that, and more people I feel like started dropping Legion from Arishem, so people don't always immediately assume you're gonna have it anymore. Whereas like for a while there, most people were like assuming you did. So I if you want to play Arishem and you want to win games, I like this version, but I'd probably try and sneak in Blob somewhere.
This is just premium stats, right? I mean, the Copycat is a 3/5, Loki's a 3/5. Man Thing's
you notice
a 4/7.
A trend here?
Deathstrike's
right? Like,
a 5/7. Legion's a 5/7. Like it is.
It's stats win the game. You run stats and the bare minimum way to interact with your opponent's cards, and they win games. Like this deck is like professional scam artist level. You have your card generation, you have your Loki, you have Copycat to steal their good cards, you have Man Thing and Deathstrike to punish them for having small cards. Eliath to just reward you for taking Prio, which is so easy with this deck. Mockingbird to have a 0/10 that rewards you for playing all these generated cards. It's like it's a really messed up deck.
Yeah,
it does feel like you're playing the game on easy mode. When I play Arishem, I feel like I am playing on easy mode. That's why when I stream and like I've played too much of a deck that requires a lot of thinking, I'll play Arishem because I can focus on chat and not think about half of the plays and still win the game.
Wow.
But yeah, that's Lady Deathstrike. Good change. I was happy they made it.
I have a challenge for you guys. I need a deck that uses only Dan Hip cards with nothing else, and I still haven't found it yet. I'm close on a couple, and I've got almost all the hips, so it's not for lack of cards. It's just that.
Oh, I bet we could. Did you get the refer a friend Domino one? Did you make sure to get that?
Dang it! Is it gone?
It's gone.
Oh snap!
Rip. It's okay. You're never gonna play it anyway.
I know, but still,
I
man,
know for the sake of collecting, that
They-
sucks. I was
they made it-
upset they put that behind there.
they made it like so irritating to get that.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I was like, I have to make a Smurf account and like
Then you
go
have to
through
spend
all these
$10.
hoops. Like, I was gonna get to it, and like every time I log in, I'd see it, and I was like, it's such a pain. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later, and then it just disappeared, and I didn't think about it until you just reminded me. So
feels bad, man.
You would never have thought of that.
oh
either,
man,
because you
they'll offer it for 2,400 gold in a year. So
Maybe we'll see. But also, I heard there were a lot of issues with that, where some people who were doing it weren't getting the domino, and I don't really know all the specifics, but it seemed like it was far from a flawless process, even for people who just were trying to like make an alt to get the Dan hit for their collections, which sucks.
yeah.
Please don't ever do this for a reinvariant. I will be very displeased, second dinner.
You know what's going to happen now, don't you?
Yeah, spoke it into action, but yeah, I wasn't a fan of the refer a friend thing. Don't think that was very good.
Yeah. Anyways,
So what do we
okay.
have next?
Sorry, I got sidetracked. All right. Next we have your other favorite card, Man Thing.
Oh
Here he
yes, best change of the patch. Probably the most impactful one too. Yeah, 4-5 to a 4-7. Is 4-7 the new 3-5? The world must know. The answer, probably. Yeah, he's a beast. He's big. He's large and in charge. Man Thing, like it. 4-5 was just such a mediocre stat line.
Yeah.
And the effect wasn't strong enough to really flip lanes where your opponent had a few small things, because the small things often like scaled upwards to where they became bigger things. So the small size of the body, pretty much like the only time this card saw significant play was when the brief like month Spectrum ongoing was like a real deck.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even like the best thing about that. It was just like, oh, this gives me a thing that is synergy with Luke Cage and works well with Jean Grey and whatnot. And
yeah,
it
wasn't that good, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was like fine. It was probably the best that type of deck's ever been, but it wasn't like crazy or anything. Enough to knock a point off Spectrum though. But anyway, yeah, this was they actually said they were thinking about buffing Man Thing, and then they didn't want to because apparently across like the general stats, the Spectrum deck had like pretty absurd stats on their end, it sounded like. And I was so bummed by that, because I was like, I've been waiting for a Man Thing buff for forever. Because US Agent got a buff like immediately, and Man Thing had to sit there
trash.
for like a year and wait.
Yeah.
And then now they finally did it, and you know, a lot of 4-cost cards suck in the game right now, and now Man Thing is like one of the few 4-cost cards that doesn't suck, and there's a lot of good low cost cards decks running around, and so this is good against them. It's just a good card.
Oh gosh, yeah, no, I thought 4-6 was premium stats. 4-7, jeez.
You know what's better than a 4-7 though? A 3-7. Which is what this is in our show.
Yeah.
It's the best free cost card in the game. So no, I echo what you're saying there a lot. But basically, Man Thing's the sort of card where every point of power is going to make a big change. I think 4-6, they could have started 4-6, and it would be enough to try it. Like you said, the base body just wasn't strong enough for the impact it actually had on the cards. It just was never really a threat. A lot of the time you were investing a lot of energy into a lane which was going to get lost by one scale or something. Like it wasn't a big enough threat. So makes a lot of sense. It has a negative downside on you in theory as well. Building all in with Luke Cage isn't very strong still, so I think it's a good change, just a quality strong card.
Best change of the patch, I'd say. Like because like it actually changed some things. Like it actually made you want to play this card and build around this card a bit, whereas a lot of the other changes it was like just like a pity point of power or knocking a point off, but didn't really change those decks. Man Thing has been changing some decks.
You
now like, should I try and put Man Thing into certain decks? Like if you can like your Arishem deck, you've put Dr. Doom in instead because you've built cards around the fact that they work better with Man Thing. So like that's a significant change. But and also I think 7 like adding power to this made sense because it can hurt you. It's not like other cards where they've just added power because no one's playing it. It actually, logical change. I like it. I like the change. Someone probably should just put it in Spectrum ongoing now and see if it's the dominant.
I watched Harry play that the other day, Ordinary Harry, and I mean that deck has its moments still, but it's another good example of like decks that are in that tier 2, tier 3 position.
Yeah.
It's just they're still pretty far behind. Even with a buff like this man thing, I don't think it's enough to re-carry that deck.
Probably not.
Please give Spectrum the Apocalypse treatment and give her power back.
Oh yeah,
put her back to 7 man. She did not deserve that.
That deck, like when it works well. Like I love like Jean Grey into Cosmo, just wins games. It was fantastic. But yeah, I feel you. I had a good little run with it in Conquest, but anyhow, yeah. All right. Next up is Nocturne. This card was seeing a ton of play.
Lore loss, lore lose. It's no longer Nightcrawler plus Scarlet Witch combined. Feels bad, man. It's no longer
that's the most important part of this change. Most important thing that they've changed there, and it should be reverted back because of that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Did they say why they changed this? Was it just because it was seeing too much play, or some ridiculous reason?
Yeah, they were basically like, we really tried to let this exist as it did, but she was kind of the best 3-drop to put in every deck. And I think they are also just a little harsher on cards that have a big impact on changing the locations. Like we've seen them do this with, remember Legion? We got that point of power taken off of it. Old heads in the beta, remember Scarlet Witch being a 1/2? That didn't last. I think they're just stricter on cards that can mitigate location RNG. And yeah, Nocturne did just go in every deck in the game. She was just like, if you wanted to put a 3-drop that could help save you from a bad location or maybe bail you out with like something the opponent and you were both not expecting the location change. Like it was just like the best 3-cost card in the game. It probably shouldn't have came out as a 3/5. I like that it did because it was a fun lore win. And it's really funny though how many people dropped this card like a rock when it is still very, very good.
It's still good. It's a
now there are other
sad
3/5s for people to mess around with, like Copycat, who at the very worst is going to have this exact same thing happen to her, if not something else. Because it just jumps around. Like 3/5 is such an efficient stat line, and we used to put 3/5 on cards that I won't say they had downsides necessarily, but they had more of like a deck specific condition. Like you're not throwing Spider-Man or Polaris or Viper in just any random deck, because if you're not utilizing the effect, those effects can have a negative impact on you.
Yeah.
Nocturne technically could. Sometimes she'd screw you over, but in general, I think it was way more positive than negative. And the exact same thing is true with Copycat, where Copycat is like just a ridiculously statted body that oftentimes steals something that is way over rate. And when you don't steal something over rate, you're still just playing a 3/5. Playing a do nothing 3/5 isn't that bad.
No, and
it high rolls all the other games.
Yeah, I agree. It whiffs every once in a while, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, like your worst whiff is like a goblin. Other than that, like even if the effect isn't that good, you can usually still just play it for the body if you need power, and power wins games. So yeah, not surprised they did this.
Oh, Goblin is so sad.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the appeal of 3/5s initially was like you actually had to build your deck around it in order to play this higher statted 3-drop, and this is not the case with modern 3/5s.
No.
And I'm curious if they are going to stick with these 3/5s or if they have their revelation about maybe we pushed a little bit far with these 3/5s, because either they lower some of them back down or then they start like pushing up other cards to make it even out, like we saw with Man Thing. So hard to say what they're going to do, but we'll see. I mean, I was sad to see it happen, but I don't think anyone was surprised. And Nocturne's still a really, really good card. So like no deck, most decks that were running this aren't going to not run it now. Like she still does what she does. She's still good.
I'm not surprised at all about this one. But yeah, lore loss and they should really answer for that crime.
Yeah, they should just, you know what? They should just nerf Scarlet Witch to a 2/2, and then it's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's how they should do it. Yeah, make her a 1/2.
Yeah, make her a 1/2. Make her a 1/2, and then you can make Nocturne a 2/4, and then we're golden.
Hey, there we go. All right. This is our last change in the OTA, and then we can talk about the new cards. Is Angel. So Angel went from a 1/2 to a 2/3. And I think that essentially what they said is like, nobody's ever played this card, and you guys probably still aren't going to play it, but this is better for the new people, right?
Kind of, yeah. I think they want to explore other things with Angel too, but they're just like, well, in the meantime, we're just going to do this and see what happens with it.
I mean, it's not as bad.
No, it's a better card. You know what it's really better in? I brace yourselves. This might be shocking. Randomly generated by Arishem.
All right. Serious question, Lee. You're a destroy gamer. Do you ever put Angel in anything?
I don't think I've ever used the card, even when I was like in pool 1. To be honest with you.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever played it.
I think I tried it when I first started because I just wanted to, like, an all destroy, and like it's you know, you start playing with the free cards, and then once you get better cards, you take the free ones out, right? So the first to go is Angel, and then the next one to go is Bucky, and so on, Bucky. Right? Well,
yeah,
I would still play Bucky over.
Yeah, Bucky.
Bucky's better than
Angel. And on release, Angel was even worse, where it didn't come out of the hand; it was only the deck. So like,
yeah,
you drew it, you felt extra punished, and now it doesn't die to Killmonger, so it's got that going for it. I've seen some people. The funniest thing I saw with this was someone playing a Destroy Thanos deck and using Angel for deck thinning, and that is probably one of the funniest ideas I've ever seen. Like, Destroy Thanos is already like bad, but like the idea of running a 2/3 just so like sometimes your deck will be one card thinner is very amusing. Yeah, the new America Chavez right here.
Hey.
Deck thinner extraordinaire. But yeah, I saw a little bit of people messing around with this the first day and then not after that. And yeah, like Nate said, I think this is more aimed at like early pool 1 or 2 players and making this like a little bit more appealing, because Budget Destroy sucks. Budget Destroy has like always sucked. It was always like miles below Zoo or Devil Dino. Like, you really couldn't play Budget Destroy in pool 2 effectively. You would just kind of splash in Carnage Bucky into decks and call it a day. It wasn't worth playing all the other Destroy cards. And it probably still isn't, but maybe this incentivizes some people. Early pool 3 or something. I still see this card on occasion in Conquest, like Budget Destroy people playing it, and that was before this change. So I'm sure they'll have some fun with it. But I hope they come up with like a better design or a more interesting design for Angel, because it's hard to see. Yeah. Like, I just don't think this design is it.
Look, it's a better card.
Yeah. Definitely a better card. 100% a better card. Like, you aren't dying to your own Killmonger. Extra stats, always good. Like, it is a better card, but I think most of the time you'll see it is when you see something blow up for Arishem and he just pops out. Yeah. But he's a lot better there.
I have had that happen, and it is a lot better.
It is. It's unironically a lot better. So,
they made the card better with this. It is an interesting change. I do get it. Yeah, I do think it makes sense to try this. Nothing much else to say though. I don't think it's actually good. Worth trying any further than that.
Yeah, it is. It's Angel. It's the best thing going for it is it has some nice variants.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man. Yeah. All right. Well, that was the OTA in a nutshell. In a 1 hour and 11 minute
extra
nutshell.
Large nutshell.
Yeah. But some good thoughts there, some interesting changes, and some others that are maybe so. But all right. And then we have a couple of new cards since the last time we did a show. So this is Young Avengers month. So the pass card is Kate Bishop, right? It's a 2/3, and she generates arrows. Anyone played with this yet?
Anyone not played with this yet?
Man, I played so much Zoo. I played Zoo from the time the month reset. Like, I got the season pass, and then someone played Marvel Boy against me, and I was like, oh, this is really good, actually. And so I got it. It took me 4 keys to get it. I was so mad. But the card is great, and I played it until I played Zoo from like the reset point up to rank 95. Like Zoo is so fun. And so anyways, Kate Bishop has the arrows. There's 4 arrows. The acid arrow is a 1. They all cost 1 energy. Acid arrow is a -2 power that it's kind of like a goblin that plays over to your opponent's side. The grapple arrow is a move card, so it's a 1/3 with on reveal. After you play your next card, move it to this location. The basic arrow is it's basically Hawkeye, right?
It's literally Hawkeye.
Yeah. So it's a 1/1, but you play a card there next turn, gets +3. And then lastly is a Pym arrow, which is Ant-Man, right? So it's a 1/1, but if it's full, it gets +3. So
old Ant-Man, not new Ant-Man.
Oh, what is new Ant-Man? Is it +4?
They buffed Ant-Man, so now it goes by +4. This one's only
+3. Lore loss. Come on.
OG Ant-Man.
They need to fix it, clearly.
Well, they made him bigger. That's part of his lore, right? He gets bigger. So he just enlarged. But this card is awesome. Like,
it's really good.
It's incredibly fun. I think they channeled that Nico Minoru energy when making this. And I think like you do have to be a little careful where it's like you don't want that to be every card in Snap, because then it probably gets a bit overwhelming for like especially the more like casual focus crowd. But I love when they make cards like this that have variable outcomes and promote like different decision making game to game. Like these, I think, are the best and most interesting cards in Snap.
Yeah.
And like the 2-drop slot for a while, like there are good 2-drops, but there's a reason Jeff has been the iconic slot it in every deck 2-drop is just because 2/3 is the generally effective 2-drop stat line. It's like the base minimum for putting a 2-drop in most decks. And Jeff just had the most upside. Like he was the most flexible. And now Kate is like a serious like competitor there, which is awesome. I think it was kind of needed to have something that competed with Jeff a bit there. The gameplay with like the different arrows has been really fun. There's a lot of application in different decks. I've seen like Zoo decks running it, Clog decks running it. Like so many different deck types can run this card. And I think that's always a win for the season pass when like it doesn't. I think like one card that got some like criticism from like a more recent season pass was like Gilgamesh, right? Because Gilgamesh wasn't a bad card, but it went in one very specific deck, like the Zoo deck we're seeing on the screen here. And I know that's Nate's because you can tell his iconic
trademark red borders.
Yeah. You can spot that from like 2 miles away.
Yeah.
But Gilgamesh was a card that even though it wasn't like too weak, it was very narrow. And if that archetype didn't appeal to you, well, the season pass wasn't very appealing that month outside of like, the other goodies you get with it. And Kate is like the complete opposite of that. I think Kate has like some of the most wide appeal. And the variance is good because you don't feel like you're playing against the same card every game, and you have to actually navigate like it differently depending on what you get. So I just love everything about this card. I think this is one of the best season pass cards they maybe have ever made.
Yeah, I agree. I think anytime, like you hit the nail on the head, anytime you have got a card and you can slam it in 3 or 4 different decks or archetypes, it's great. So it's been very fun. Yeah.
Yeah. She's just perfect, really, isn't she? That's the thing. She's probably a little bit too.
Maybe a little, but like I think it's like too good. Like Jeff is too good, where it's like no one's really bothered by it. Except maybe if
the acid arrow is kind of annoying.
Yeah, the acid arrow has also been a huge buff to like junk decks, but it's good because they don't get it every game, right?
Right.
No, and it plays. It does something unique, which can fit into a lot of places, and you're not going to regret owning the card, like you said. So, yes, I think it genuinely makes a lot of decks better, but she's not necessarily going to go in every single deck.
No, nor should she. And what's funny is like when you get a card like this that goes in so many decks, it actually results in some very interesting things on the stats side. I don't know if this has changed. Maybe you can check Safety. She actually had a negative win rate. She was below 50%. And it's really funny to see that because like anyone who's played the card is probably like, well, that's ridiculous. Like how how is that possible when the card is actually like really good and regarded as really good? And I think it's because she's so flexible. Some people put her in decks where maybe she shouldn't be in, and it drags the win rate down a little bit.
Definitely in decks where she might not be as good as people think she is for it. I think that's part of the problem. 51.3% currently in top 10% though.
Okay, so she did cross over the threshold. She was at like 48 or 49 for a little while, and I was really surprised to see that.
I do want to make a stats point for anyone who's not done stats like a lot. Like if she's in 30% of games to get that 51%, that's kind of crazy. So you can say the stats are deflated, but like she's showing up in 30% of games. She's hitting herself a lot as well.
It's like Arishem, right?
Still,
it naturally pushes towards 50% because of decks. When two decks both have Kate, it's like it evens out to 50 because one loses.
All them games where she's in the same game, that's a 50% win rate for that card. Like it's never going to. And that argument comes up a lot with Marvel Snap stats discussions where people are like, well, the stats are middling. It's like, no, 30% of games since she's at that is quite high. Quite high.
Yes, definitely. We got a Hitmonkey deck with her.
Yeah, Lee, tell us about this.
So I had a guy in chat come in and ask me if I wanted to try this out. I wasn't really a big bounce player, but this made me really enjoy it. I did really well with this deck, actually. Originally, instead of the Rocket, it had Absorbing Man, but he had said that he found better success with having Rocket just because it was another small card that you could bounce out.
Rocket gets kind of huge when you, especially.
Yeah, he's having his day.
Yeah.
It really is. But I went from about 73 or 74 to 86 with this.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, so it worked really, really well. I enjoyed it a lot, and having those extra things, like you could play out the arrows from Kate early and then just bounce them and have them at zero cost, so you can do your final Hitmonkey turn. It's pretty good.
Oh, Gwenpool buffs on the Mysterio is always nice. Yeah,
we love some Hitmonkey around here.
You could even Grandmaster the Gwenpool to get another bonus.
Yeah, it's just got so much stuff. Or the Casanova, the Cassandra Nova.
Or even the Hawkeye, right?
On the final turn.
Just lots of things. Yeah.
Queen Cassie.
Wow. Grandmaster in a deck, and we all think it looks great. What is this world coming to?
Yeah, there was someone fairly high up in Infinite Ladder played a kind of similar deck, but instead of going a bounce version, they went like Sarah Fastos, but they were still running a lot of the cards you had here, like Grandmaster, and some smaller stuff, and like the Hitmonkey Gwenpool, and it was sick. It's a really fun deck.
Was that the Fastos Absorbing Man?
Yeah, Fastos Absorbing Man, Sarah Hitmonkey. It was a really fun deck.
I was rolling my eyes that day.
It looks really like you look at the cards in it and you're like, this is such a pile. How is this going to work? And then you play it and you make like the world's largest Hitmonkey, or you get double monkey, and you're like, okay, all right, I won the game.
I see why it works. Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was like, how am I losing? I can't possibly lose this. And it was like Hitmonkey, Absorbing Man, Grandmaster. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. So there definitely, I do think there definitely is something here to this style of Hitmonkey deck, and I love to see it because Hitmonkey's a really fun card.
Wait, Lee, this Grandmaster cost you 8 keys?
It did.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's how much I wanted it.
Oh,
it is a really good variant.
It's so good.
Poker cards. It's
very on brand.
It is.
but dude, oh man, that's painful. I'm sorry.
I also had to get a second mortgage, so that's okay.
Hey, at least you won't have to spend 2,400 gold in a year.
That's true. The value that I just saved.
3x value right there.
Keys.
The art is so good though. It's so good.
It really is great art. Big fan of it.
It is. It's really good. I really
when I
saw it.
Art.
Yeah.
By the way, we were you came up an episode or two ago when we were talking about the Gambit variant switcheroo.
Oh yeah.
Did that hit you? I'm sure it did.
Oh yeah, it pissed me off, to be quite honest. I understand why they took it out, but the initial thing that they said, like, oh, here, have this variant that no one asked for. I didn't like the replacement, so I'm glad that they did the AK gold thing. But the thing that bothered me the most was, like, I didn't even buy it. Like, a good friend of mine bought it for me because he's just like, this is like one of your favorite characters, so I want to get this for you. Like it's your bundle, it's your card. And that's what I felt worse for, was that like somebody else spent the money for me to have it and I don't have it.
Yeah, that's definitely
really
bad. And they handled it really bad at first. They handled it super bad at first.
It was not good. It was not very well handled in the beginning. So I'm glad that they gave the 8K gold. At least it was a lot better than getting that. I'm sorry, but that variant that they gave was just not it.
No, it's just like,
I think we had talked about it, right? Because
other ones where like if you're gonna replace something, go with something that fits the theme. Like,
right.
It with a meme that doesn't appeal to the same like aesthetic crowd that the original one did. Like I think it was less about like people are okay with a replacement if the replacement gave that same kind of, this is like a really badass version of Gambit, and they just went the complete opposite route.
Yeah, they went the complete opposite way. And when I looked at it, I was just like, this has to be a joke.
Yeah, I felt like it, right?
There's no way. Like, is it April 1st?
Like, who thought this through? Like,
who thought that this? It's like, hey guys, we have really good art here. Let's put this meme in because everyone will love that.
Yeah, they'll laugh.
It was the sad Wolverine looking at the photo one, right?
Yeah,
except it was Gambit.
Yeah, it's just Gambit. Yeah. But I'm just like,
but it was like, it's like the same.
Why do I want the Gambit one? Yeah.
You know who I really feel for in that situation? The people who got an infinity border on it. Because that got replaced too. They still got the infinity border, but yeah, like you're appealing to such a different crowd of like art style.
Different person wants to meme Gambit.
Exactly. Like it's not the Venn diagram there doesn't like exist for the most part.
At all. Like over here somewhere.
It's
the Venn diagram.
It's a classic reminder of like, I feel like there's just Second Inner has like a trend where they'll like make a very weird or bad first reaction to something. And then they'll be like, okay, all right, our bad. Here, let's make it better. And it's like, well, could you, if you could just skip that step and get to the thing that is actually better,
just do it good in the first place. Yeah.
Like, look at what happened with the and we didn't talk about this at all yet. The Leagues event, like that was people were really frustrated with that and all this stuff, and then they came out with a response, and it was like generally, for the most part, I think their response was universally praised.
By the way, didn't they say they were giving everyone the Deadpool thing?
They did, and I thought that would come this week, but it hasn't.
I was going to say, I sure did not.
Yeah, nobody's gotten it yet. Yeah. So if you're wondering where your thing is yet, it hasn't gone out yet. I think that's through their publisher, through Newverse, rather than directly Second Inner. I'm not 100% sure on the details of that stuff, but I think there are some hoops they're jumping through to make it work. Maybe it's related to the patch coming on Tuesday too. I don't know. But it is still coming if you didn't get it. Like I specifically stopped playing for the League once that announcement went out. And so I placed like 4th because people did the thing and they passed me. I was like, oh, whatever. I don't care. Because I'll get it. And I thought it would go out sometime this week. It's normal for things to, take a few days, but it's been a week. So hopefully next week, because I've had quite a few people comment like, hey, where is it? But it is still going out. But I feel like that's a good topic. Maybe we want to save it for after the cards, but I think that's the most commotion we've seen in the Snap community in a little while was Deadpool League.
It was kind of hilarious watching everybody like cheat.
All right, I gotta.
It's not even cheat is not even the right word. It was. I mean, it's basically win trading, right? But like,
yeah.
It was so silly,
I actually know someone who went into Marvel Snap's terms of service to look if it was against the rules, and technically there isn't anything in there about like win trading. So the more you know.
Wow.
I know that's dedication. That's dedication. But yeah, it was funny. Like a bunch of people I'm friendly with who play Snap, we figured it out within like the first hour. And this is before it was like widely publicized and whatnot. So if you had a friend that you could reasonably matchmake into Conquest in, like For example, let's say me and Safety run into each other on ladder a lot. So if we both queued up Conquest at the same time, we'd probably run into each other. And people figured out very quickly that that was how you could just get ahead, because as long as you both conceded until the last one, because of how their point system worked, both players walked away with a positive amount of points. Because you got more points per win, and the points you lost for losing cubes were less than the points you were gaining for the win. So it was net positive for everybody. And well, it eventually, like a few hours later, the rest of the community figured it out, and it ushered in a whole new era of proving grounds communism, like we have never seen before. Literally, that whole weekend, like 9 out of 10 proving grounds games, people just figured out, oh, you hit them with the fist bump and the spider point and concede, and then they do it back, and yeah, there you go. Everyone just shoots up to the top, and yeah, it kind of completely invalidated all the, I love the word they chose for this, competitive integrity of leagues, which, let's be honest, in the current form, the leagues aren't a competitive format. They do what Snap is best at, which is providing the illusion of being a competitive game, when like it's not in a lot of cases. It's like Conquest all over again, but somehow worse. So the leagues were kind of a fiasco for that reason. They fortunately did announce like a day later, hey, yeah, this is our bad, which is good. I saw some people being like, oh no, they should just punish the people doing this exploit. And it's like, it's entirely on them. It's like, if players figure this out, and apparently from what I heard, some people even figured this out in the beta test too, because it was run in select regions in Europe as a beta. People figured it out there too. They didn't do anything about it. Shocker. And then it affects the launch of this feature.
It's also got to be very difficult to do something about. Like, if if they were going to go through
event, right?
Well, yeah, and also to try to figure out, like, to try to go through all the game logs to see.
Oh yeah, it's just not realistic for them to go. They probably could, but the amount of man hours it would take to like track everyone down, and what are they going to do? They're not going to ban people for this. Like what do you expect them to do?
What is their goal? What would be the goal of doing that? Would be my question to anyone who asked them to do something like that. Is like, what do they get?
They get they get to pat themselves on the back and say, well, I did the noble thing and I did not abuse the system, and it makes me a better person. And it's like, all right, great. Cool. Then just do that and be happy with that.
You don't need to, and I will just
emote a high horse thing. Yeah, exactly. I'll hit you with the little Deadpool emote in response. So that was like a whole ordeal and whatnot. And it, like the thing that's a shame is, like, I feel like it did overshadow a bit, and people probably don't really remember. Leagues initially seemed super duper pay to win. Like the beta of Leagues was incredibly pay to win. They had these like boosters you could get to get more points. It was really pay to win. The community hated it. And they eventually came out with a statement, which was pretty funny, which was like, hey, all right, we're not doing this. You know, sometimes we just have to test things like this out that we know people might not like, just to be sure you really don't like them. And it's like, that makes me really trust you as a developer. Thanks for telling me that. But they just to be sure you hate it, you know, just to be sure we can't make another $10 million off of this 2-day game mode or whatever, like I'm sure they did in the diner. But yeah, so it left like a weird taste with like Leagues. I saw a lot of people really were stressed out about it because they couldn't opt out of Leagues, and if they weren't interested in competing, it created a bit of a feels bad where you just see that negative number at the end of every game. Like, you can hide your little ladder results from showing up at the end of the game, but there was no option to hide your league points or whatever. So I hope they add that for those people, because it kind of sucks if you're auto opted in and like you don't care, you know, you're not competing, and the game's just trying to constantly remind you. Like, I don't feel that way, but like I understand that some people do. So either giving a way to opt out or hide that is like a net positive for those players. But the format is so incredibly flawed. I don't know what they're doing to address this. We have a Jeff one coming next week, and I think it's going to include the Jeff sipping the juice emote. And I think people are going to get really competitive about that because it's a really good emote. Let me see if I can find it really quick. So Nate can pull it up because it is.
I got it.
You got it. All right, great. It's a really good emote, and we don't know for sure it's in there, but it seems like it will be because leagues are currently free to play. You don't have to pay anything to get into them, but the rewards seem to be all cosmetic based instead of like progression based. They did talk about doing like a paid league, which I think was data mined to be like the gold pass, or if you pay $5, you can be in a paid version of league where apparently the rewards are probably progression based, but we don't really know. But the Juicy Jeff it's a top tier emote, and people love Jeff, and people are going to want this. So if this is the top 3 reward for the Jeff League, I'd expect some fierce competition from people.
Yeah, I was kind of irritated. They put the Jeff Iron Lad behind a spotlight key.
I know, I was sad about that. We do get Jeff Storm as the Twitch drop variant next week, so that's pretty pumped.
That's some good news. Some good news. How many keys am I going to spend to get a Jeff variant though? The Iron Lad Jeff variant is just so good.
Yeah, I love
Jeff Max Wacky is incredible. Just to throw that out there too.
They're just. I love
variant
Jeff
next week. Really cool.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Jeff Week. Also, they're gonna have a bundle with Wave with Jeff.
If they start making cards with Jeff, like it makes me want to just get them, and I try really hard to not get like sucked into that stuff. But how can you not? I mean, this is so good.
Yeah, see, like I want that one, but I also really don't want anything else in the week. So I'm trying to resist because I'm trying to save my keys because the next 2 months I'm gonna buy like every card the next 2 months, as well as like probably a few of the spotlights.
Yeah,
so I have a lot of keys, but they're gonna go quickly.
For those of us who don't have very many, I've got like 5 right now. It's rough.
Yeah, like all right, that'd be a curious thing. So Nate, you have 5. Safety, how many do you have?
13.
You have 13. Okay, what about you, Lee?
I think I have 5 as well, 5 or 6.
Okay, I'm the outlier.
I
have 33.
Oh my gosh! Wow. All right.
But I haven't been using them much in like the past month, and I also got lucky and one tapped some weeks. I've been using my tokens. Like I've been specifically avoiding spending spotlights for a while because I know I'm really excited for the next 2 months. Like they're probably 2 of my favorite seasons of Snap that I think they've ever done if the cards are accurate. So, and I love Spider-Man and Venom, and like they're my favorite Marvel people. So I've been saving ever since I heard about those. I was like, all right, time to save because I'm really pumped for those. Jeff Week seems cool. We don't really know what it entails aside from like there's a Jeff League, there are going to be Jeff variants. I think there are going to be some login rewards. It would have been awesome, and maybe they could do it, although I'm going to press X to doubt. Giving away a free Jeff. Imagine if they gave away a free Jeff, because like most of the dedicated player base has Jeff, right?
They're not doing that.
No, but they're not going to do that. There's no way, because like he's Big Jeff. They're still making that 6K tokens or spotlight key purchases for players who don't have them, who are like newer or whatever. But can you just imagine how like happy people would be with like a free Jeff or a free Jeff variant? It would be pretty sick.
Yeah, I'm already irritated that like I've got 5,000 tokens tucked away.
Oh yeah, the Venomized Jeff, the Peach Momoko Venom Jeff. It's super sick. I want that one real bad too, but it's like God. The last time I spent 5K tokens on an ultimate, I think was like the Arrow ultimate. I only have 2 ultimates. It was Arrow and Thanos, and I've never bought another one.
I have 2 as well. Yeah, I went for Arrow and Hulk.
That's a good one.
I have.
Has that one too.
I've got the White Queen Venomized one, and I've got the Electro, the
Jacinto, yeah.
Jacinto Electro, yeah.
It's so good, and I'm sure as soon as we see it animated, it's gonna be like, oh, gotta get.
It's amazing, but like
the price of a new card, essentially, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah,
it is very rough.
Yeah,
that's.
And like
we'll keep an eye out for Jeff Week. Like, who knows what Jeff Week has to come.
Yeah.
But I think that league is what's really gonna drive a lot of excitement for that Jeff emote. And also you want a pro tip on leagues, assuming there's not another exploit, assuming they don't just, it'd be so funny if their fix to this exploit is just to remove proving grounds from the equation. because then it'll just be people like win trading in silver. But then if they remove it from Conquest entirely, which is what some people have suggested, that sucks for the people who really like Conquest. Like there are a lot of players out there who they finish their ladder climb and they play Conquest for the rest of the month. And it would feel pretty bad if they were kind of being left out of the event. So I'm curious to see what their solution is for fixing the league problem. They could also just adjust the points. There are a lot of things they could do. Will they do them? I don't know, but we'll see soon. But if you want a pro tip for winning your league and getting in a league with like weaker quality opponents, leagues are short. The last one was like 2 days. We don't know how long this one will be, but let's say it's 2 days, 3 days. Just wait a day before you play a game of Marvel Snap. You will get really bad opponents. I saw people do this during this league because you don't get in a league until you play a game. They don't match you with people until, and even when they do, like I know me and a bunch of other high level ladder people, none of us got in the same league. It did not feel like they were matching us with people of equal skill level. Like nobody recognized most of the names in our leagues. They were just like people we'd never even played before. So I don't know what they use for that, but if you want to limit the competition and have the best chance of getting your Jeff emote, just wait. Don't as soon as leagues log in, don't start grinding right away, because the leagues are kind of designed to pit like a handful of really dedicated people into out grinding each other. That's kind of the trap. That's how they were going to make money when they sold the boosts, was you could also outpay each other. But that's gone.
That's so
it's a classic like mobile trap, right? And so that's the trap. If you want to avoid it, just like wait I don't know, a couple hours, a day, however long you think is worth waiting, and you'll probably get worse league opponents. And if you're dedicated, you can just crush them.
All right, we're a little past an hour and a half, so probably should wrap pretty soon. But we've got two other cards that came out that we should talk about just briefly. Marvel Boy and Wiccan. So Marvel Boy clearly is a zoo card. Wiccan is interesting to me, and I haven't taken the bait on it yet, but it's primarily because my number of keys and tokens are so low. But definitely premium stats. Any thoughts on either of these two from anybody?
I'll give you some thoughts. Don't buy Wiccan. Wiccan's very bad.
Hey, he's mid.
Hey, good stats.
No, mid is actually being kind.
Good stats
but everyone thought he was really bad. It was going to be really, really bad, and he's like,
I saw a little bit. I think it didn't live up to my expectations of it. I thought it was going to be slightly better than it is. You can play it in decks. Yeah, that's my assessment of this.
You can play it in decks. There you
go. Feel free to play this card if you want to.
It's fun, and it's not going to completely like murder your win rate in the right deck.
That's like, the best endorsement that you'll hear about this card. Play this card if you want to. Index.
I say that, and I did actually have a 60% win rate with it yesterday. So there is places you can it can do things, but I just don't think it's the best thing to do. You're better off. It's an old rule I used to have about Magic and even any ramp cards. If you can do the thing without ramping, why are you bothering playing the ramp card? And it's the same thing here.
Yeah, it's a good rule.
Like it's really like the bounce deck. Yes, you can play it in the bounce deck. Can't you just play the bounce deck and you'll be quicker and faster and better? And the stats back me up entirely. Like every single time.
Same with Loki, right? Like, oh, it's good in Loki, and it's like, yeah, but like. Loki's still the power force of the deck. Loki is what's driving those stats more than Wiccan is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's not terrible. Like I thought this card was going to be terrible, unplayable. It's not, but it's also not like a card you need to pick up or you're gonna really regret.
This card.
Yeah, it's just and
I actually think it's actively bad in more decks than people want to admit it. Like the argument, it's good in this, and it was good when I got. Everything on curve, and I drew Loki, and then I drew his Odin and his Wong.
Like a win more card. It's the win more card.
A win more card. Like every every deck I've ended up pulling it out and going, how can I do this without this in the 4/7? Marvel Boy, however, is like you guys were talking about before. He's just a solid, strong card. It does a thing, and it does it pretty well, and does it badly sometimes. But
If you can play it on curve, I found it's
a ton of power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is a whole lot of power, and I thought it was only going to be a zoo card, but it turns out the power it enables is good enough just to make a little like Squirrel Girl, one or two other 1-drops Mockingbird package. Like Loki was running that, a few other decks are running that, and it's just a pretty good mid-range package. Like Marvel Boy just pumps out a bunch of stats if you can justify running a few 1-drops, and the fact that Squirrel Girl alone just enables his buff being fully active each turn is pretty huge.
Yeah, no, Marvel Boy is a good card. Next card is Speed. I'm trying to his.
Oh yeah,
the next one's Speed.
I don't know. I haven't even looked that far ahead. I remember looking at the card early on and being unimpressed and thinking like, But it's same deal, right?
Boring.
It's like if you have used all your energy every turn,
it's a lore win because it works with Wiccan, right?
Right. Yeah, they're twins, right, in the comics. So
Quicksilver. I'll help us move us along a bit, and I'll start rambling about Speed if we're talking about all the cards.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the new, at the ones that were out so far, but we can talk real quick about the ones that are upcoming if you want.
Because there's not a lot to say on Speed and Emperor Hulkling, I don't think.
Speed is it's a 3/3 ongoing +1 power for each turn in which you spent all your energy. There we go.
Yeah, I can talk about this. I was trying to write the article earlier today about this one. I think this is a really potentially much better card than Wiccan. Like it might actually be good. Because of the ongoing part. Like you can play Speed any turn, like Morbius, and you get the buff from doing this. So really actually kind of worried about it with Thena and co.
Or Sandman, like those tempo Sandman lists.
Yeah, Sandman too. Like you play it in 3. It's always going to get its full buff if you fill all your curve. Like it doesn't.
Yeah, then it's a 3/9.
It doesn't have to be in board first. So if you draw this on 6 and you spent every energy up until then, it's still a 3/9.
Yeah, that's good. It's big stats. Like think about 3/7 Cassandra. How much people played that? This is
it's like I know it's not countering a card like Cassandra does, but this is a much more compelling reason to spend all my energy than Wiccan.
Yeah, I generally.
I'd almost go any deck where you can see Wiccan right now. Go to it and see if you can take Wiccan out and put Speed in. It'll probably be better. That's my assessment of this card. I actually think it might be really good, and that's
It's funny. Like I think Wiccan is like the design where it's like you can make a somewhat like mid or bad card that makes people excited enough and feel like they're having enough fun anyway to buy it. And Speed's like the opposite, where it's like you can make a pretty good card, but it's so boring that I think a lot of people won't buy it because it doesn't like it encourages you aren't building your deck around Speed super hard or anything. You're putting it in decks where you want to curve out, and like that's fine. But it's not like I'm not going to have that same excitement as like, oh, I got that +2 energy from Wiccan. Now I can spam out all these other cards. It's just it's a good card that is not very exciting, and I expect less people to pick it up because of that, because it's just like it's not a super exciting card.
Yeah, the people aren't going to pick it up because, like you said, that it's just not exciting. And Emperor Hulkling. This is why I want to do all the cards. So I just want to point out that, and I want to go on record once again. This card will be a mega trash, awful, really bad. Everything about this is horrible. I don't see why you'd ever want to play this.
Yeah.
So that's my rant.
I made a little list. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. I made a list of all the 6-drops and where I kind of rated them. Because that's what determines how good this card is, right? Is like whatever it hits. Here it is.
Galactus.
And, like there are some really funny ones. But the thing is that there are a lot more bad ones or ones that don't make an impact than the ones that do a really funny busted thing. All right, here's the list. But it's like you have some super S tier ones where it's like, 11 power Zola, Blob, Doom, Leader, Ultron. Yeah, those are all pretty pog. Like you're having a good time when you get those. But there are also a lot of ones where it's either basically the same as the regular card, or like you don't really appreciate the card. So like the energy reduction ones like Sasquatch and She-Hulk, that's fine because maybe you cheated out earlier. Red Hulk gets it bigger. Galactus, if it works, is incredibly funny. But then like some of these other ones, like in the B tier, like Alioth is a good one to get. But at that point, I think you'd rather just have Alioth in your deck. Like just play Alioth. It's 1 power less, and you will always have it.
Yeah.
And Magneto, like as we know, like if you're like Magneto can be good or it can be bad because moving the stuff isn't always good. Orca, kind of a similar thing where it's like you need a specific condition to actually have it be upside and not just be, no text. 611, Heimdall, same kind of thing as Magneto where it's very situational. Then there are so many bad ones.
I love getting Heimdall and Arishem. Like we always the running joke, right, is Heimdall in to lose. Except when it's in Arishem. It is Heimdall in to win. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, because
the only time it's actually a surprise is when it's in Arishem. So.
But look at all the bad ones or ones that are too situational. Living Tribunal, bad. Null, bad most of the time. I put Mockingbird there because like unless you're playing Arishem, you're not going to get a Mockingbird reduction out of a lot of decks. So it's kind of like having no text. That's kind of what the C tier is this is kind of no text most of the time. When the text is relevant, then yeah, it might be good. Like if you're playing an Iron Man deck and you get an Onslaught, sure. Or you're playing a Big Guys deck and you get a Scar, sure. But like in like the average deck, a lot of those don't work. And then D and F are ones that are just like literally do nothing, and F actively hurts you. Like Giganto limiting where you can play it, Destroyer blowing up your board, Agatha, Infinite, like those ones are just like it makes it like the worst card in the game.
Yeah,
and it's important to remember it's a 6-drop. I feel like people often forget the reason 6-drops are so hit or miss in Snap is because you got one turn to play them most of the time. So like they really have to make that impact. And I don't see a world where I think Hulkling will be fun. I think the type of player that enjoys this kind of variance and enjoys like the high rolls or watching the wacky stuff happen from it, I think they'll have fun with it. And if you're one of those people, buy it, have fun. Like
I'll try it when I get it randomly generated in Arishem.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's how most people will try it. Although I don't because it started the game, I don't even know if it works in Arishem. Like if you aren't hard running it, I think it's just a textless body. But yeah, it seems like I don't see a world where this is a competitive card, but not every card needs to be a competitive card. If it's just for, those players who want to have that RNG fun, that's fine.
Yeah.
No. So.
But don't buy it expecting it to be some new like meta 6-drop because it won't be.
What happens when Copycat hits it? How does that work?
So it should just take the text of whatever Hulkling took. The only time where it might be different is if it started the game. So yeah, no, that should be always how it works. Is Hulkling does it at the start. The one thing I'm wondering, and I doubt it does this, does it show you at the start of the game? Do we get a little Thanos or Arishem animation showing what Hulkling copied? That could make the card better. Not like enough to where it's actually great, but there's a big difference in knowing, oh, hey, I have the potential of drawing a 6'11 Doctor Doom or a 6'11 Leader or Ultron or whatever, than if I know I might be drawing a 6'11 Hulk or Helicarrier. So that would be a way they could kind of like, the information I think would actually be quite good for the card.
Yeah, I mean, if it pulls Agatha, do you just lose control of the game like right immediately, right?
You still have to draw it. Agatha only works if she's in your hand. So you still have to draw it. But
see, it's been a long time since I used Agatha. All right.
So yeah, those are the cards. It honestly, I do think in general, in terms of like power, it was a little bit lower power this season. But I also think we have some really high power cards coming up in the Spider season and the Venom season, or the Symbiote season. So I think giving people a little breathing room to be like, okay, I'm okay with skipping more of the cards this month because I want to save for the next month was probably a good thing. Like I've been pretty happy that I don't feel compelled to go after every card this month because there are a lot I want to get next month. And most people who play the game, like they don't have the luxury of getting all the cards in a month without like seriously saving up beforehand.
Oh, I can't. There's no way. Yeah. Well, I think that sort of wraps things up for us. We've been going at it for just shy of 2 hours. This is pretty good though. We had a nice discussion about the OTA and the new cards and
yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Like I feel like we covered just about everything I was hoping to cover.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we head out, definitely want to thank Lee in particular and SafetyBlade for joining us tonight. Super cool to have you guys. Do you guys want to share your stream info in case people want to check you out?
Yeah, where can people find you guys on the internet?
On this website under SafetyBlade now, very often. That's twice a week. And on the other website, Twitter, tweet
The
all the
everything
time.
website.
The everything website, tweet all the time, and stuff. And finally, Marvel Snap Zone. I write for Marvel Snap Zone weekly, about 3 to 4 articles a week, usually on the new cards and the changes, and analyzing the new card after release. So I'm a sucker who gets every new card still. So if you want gameplay, not just stats and people like actual experience from gameplay, I think that's one of the things that I pride myself on doing. So please check me out there. I try to lay the card into the absolute ground and find any way I possibly can to work out if it's good, and I think it shows. So please check me out there. That's it.
Very good. Very good. All right, Lee, what about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitch at Lee Acer, or on YouTube at Lee Acer as well, where I'm making, if you like lore videos, you can go check out some ones. I've been doing a series on the locations of Marvel Snap.
Oh, yeah, they've been really good. They've been really good.
Yeah, those have been awesome. I highly recommend Lee's lore.
If you wanna check those out, you can there. But yeah, I'm streaming 4 days a week usually on Twitch, playing half the week about Marvel Snap, and then the other half I kind of just doing variety for right now because I'm a little bit burnt on the game.
Yeah, I feel you.
Happens.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Make sure you check our alliance out. Harry's our alliance, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, it's Lee and Safety. We're shouting out. They are both carrying
hard carrying
on their back, doing like the majority of the missions.
I've been known to do a few bounties here and there.
Yeah, I've been
just a few.
I kind of enjoy the bounties. That's the only reason I'm playing discard and destroy and the other stuff. It's kind of fun.
That's what has me playing Snap a lot more lately.
Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest. It's just because like it's the MMO player in me. Then I just want to complete quests.
Yeah, you know, it's neat, and I think we talked about alliances a little bit last episode, but I imagine we'll talk about them again in the future because apparently we're getting some kind of update to them in the patch this coming week. So it sounds like they're going to add something or make them better in some way. I don't know. We'll see. But alliances definitely feel like that one thing where it's like it was just a kind of a pure upside community dub for Snap, and the game could definitely use more of those.
Absolutely.
It's really a big positive for the game for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Very good. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. Thank you, chat, for being here and interacting with us and hanging out. And we will see you guys eventually when we do another episode at some point.
Yeah, our next flexible podcast date.
Yeah, very good. And Blue Train will be back as well. So until next time, keep it Cosmo.
Keep it Cosmo.
Keep it Cosmo.
Enough said, bub.